Broncos country, how are we feeling? I know a lot of us are disappointed we didn't really make these top end moves today in free agency. And we saw what the Chargers did, signing, what was it, uh, Austin Joseph, I believe. They also signed one of my guys who I really wanted in Sebastian Joseph Day. Obviously, trading for Khalil Mack, signing J.C. Jackson, the best free agent corner. And the Broncos have really done nothing today. We paid a backup offensive guard for the Packers, who's most likely going to be a backup for us. You can never go wrong with depth, so I don't really hate the move. But it sucks seeing your team sit here and do nothing. But Broncos fans have to remember, a majority of our free agent money was paid to Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick on those extensions. Bringing in Russell Wilson and taking on that contract, that took a lot of money. $9 million has to be saved for the NFL draft. And so that leaves us with about, I think we have $26 million, not including the cap. So about $15 million to spend. So the Broncos have to spend it wisely. Right now, according to Benjamin Albright, we're working on an edge and a cornerback right now. So who knows who those people are, but we're signing. But first, I want to remind you, make sure to follow my Twitter. It's not important, but to get updates, my instant reactions, my thoughts, you need to follow my Twitter for this instant stuff, because there's some things that I forget to say in videos, and so just to make sure that you're in the loop and on the same page, make sure to follow my Twitter. As always, I want to remind you that Jesus is King. I pray that you give your life to Him. He's got a plan and a purpose for you, and I just hope you find your way to Jesus and are able to accept Him as your Lord and Savior and believe that He died on the cross for your sins and rose from the dead 3 days later. And if you truly believe that with your whole heart and you confess with your mouth that He is Lord, then you'll be saved and go to heaven. And with that being said, let's jump in to the remaining, I think, top 11 free agents that I would want for the Broncos to sign. All right, so coming in here at number 11 is Tyrann Mathieu, safety from the Kansas City Chiefs. To me, this really shouldn't happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen, but we have Justin Simmons, obviously, as our free safety, and I feel comfortable with starting Caden Stearns, our 5th-round rookie last year, at strong safety, and then drafting a safety in the draft. I feel like that is the best option and probably the most likely option, but I wouldn't be surprised if we sign Tyrann Mathieu and have that lockdown secondary with Justin Simmons, Tyrann Mathieu, Patrick Surtain, Ronald Darby, Michael Ojemudia, Bryce Callahan if we bring him back, Desmond King. Desmond King is not on this list. I'll tell you what, he is not on this list, but he is someone who I would really like the Broncos to sign at slot corner if we don't bring Bryce Callahan back. And I want to remind you that this list, if, say, the players are signed, at this current moment, the players are not signed. So I know there's probably going to be someone who comments, oh, this player's already signed. Well, yeah, that's because this was recorded before they were signed. But yeah, that is my number 11 player. I'm just going to go ahead and check to see if the Broncos have made a move yet. Yeah, no, we have not made a move still, other than we brought back some guys and signed the guard. Ben, what's his name? Ben, I want to get it right for you, so let me look it up real quick. Ben Braden. Ben Braden. He knows the Packers offense and what type of offense Hackett is going to run. All right, coming in at the number 10 free agent for the Broncos to sign, I'm going to go with Darius Williams, and I think this is an actual likely signing. To me, I like our corner group. I don't love it. I think Patrick Surtain, locked down. Then Ronald Darby, I think is solid for a couple years. Michael Ojemudia, I really like. He had a really good game the last week of the season, so I want to see maybe he could rise up to be that cornerback too for us for the future. Then, you got Isang Bassi, all these other guys. I would like to add another guy to the corner room, and I think Darius Williams would be a solid guy. Obviously, I think we address it in the draft in maybe like the 3rd, 4th round, but I would like a Darius Williams for the Broncos potentially in free agency. I don't think he's not going to be that super duper expensive player to sign in free agency. He'll still cost a little bit, but I really like Darius Williams. Obviously, he knows Ejiro Evero, our defensive coordinator, so I think this would be a great signing for the Broncos here. At number 9, I have Randy Gregory, edge rusher from the Cowboys, more like a defensive end, and he was connected to the Broncos this morning. Of course, before all this talk, there was a lot of talks with Chandler Jones potentially joining the Broncos. He's still not signed. Then Bobby Wagner being recruited by Russ, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then there was Randy Gregory talk today, which wouldn't be the worst thing. Obviously, he's not one of those like elite edge rushers in this free agent class like a Chandler Jones, like a Von Miller, but he is still someone who is very solid, who I'd like for the Broncos to potentially target in free agency, because we do need to add an edge rusher to our edge group. So if it's Randy Gregory, why not? And if Randy Gregory is the guy we go after in this free agent class, I'm glad we didn't sign him today when we're recording this on the first day of the legal tampering period, March 14th, because I don't think he's worth that top end money, like the A+ money, but I think he's more of the B+, A- range for his salary. So that's just my thoughts. I wouldn't mind Randy Gregory if the Broncos decide to go with him. At the number 8, I'm going with Teron Armstead, offensive tackle. Now, he would be a great offensive tackle for the Broncos, especially to deal with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on that Chargers defensive line. But to me, we would have to move Garrett Bowles to right tackle, because I believe Teron Armstead wants to play left tackle. And it took him a while to develop that left tackle position and be solid, because we know how much he struggled when he first came into the league, and he's finally gotten it down, so I don't know if I would want to move it. And then I don't necessarily know if Teron Armstead would want to play left tackle, or right tackle, sorry. So to me, it's tricky. It's tricky. If he's willing to, I'm glad to sign him, but I don't think that's likely, and I think he would probably cost most of the remaining of our cap space, meaning we couldn't make any other signings. So that's why he's a little bit lower down on the list for me, but I wouldn't mind if the Broncos picked up Teron Armstead in this free agent class. Okay, at number 7, I have Zadarius Smith, edge rusher from the Packers. He was released today. Obviously, the Packers didn't want to release him, but he was a cap casualty because the Packers were way over the cap and needed some cap room. Obviously, for Aaron Rodgers' upcoming contract and Devontae Adams' upcoming contract. And somehow today they were able to sign Preston Smith to an extension. And then who's the linebacker they signed today? They retained. Who they signed to a 5-year, $50 million deal. I'm blanking on his name, but they signed him. Unfortunately, Zadarius Smith was a very, very solid, he's a very, very solid player. The Packers didn't want to give him up. Obviously, he made the Pro Bowl a few years ago, and that's really a popularity contest. But he was a very solid pass rusher for the Packers, and if the Broncos signed him, I would love that, because we need edge. Edge is our number one need. Edge, cornerback, linebacker, defensive tackle. We need to address those positions in free agency, in my opinion. I wouldn't mind some of them being addressed in the draft, but with no first-round pick and our first pick being the last pick in the second round, I do feel like a lot of our needs need to be addressed in free agency. At number 6, I'm going with La'el Collins. Now, he's not a free agent yet, but I heard a report or a rumor somewhere that the Cowboys are going to cut La'el Collins, and if they do, the Broncos need to jump on this, because we need an offensive tackle. That's another mention that I forgot. Offensive tackle, cornerback, edge, defensive tackle, linebacker, all needs. And like I said with Teron Armstead, that Chargers defensive line and that edge group is absolutely scary. And we just traded for Russell Wilson, who, he can extend plays and make things happen, but if he doesn't have to, don't force him to do that. Get him protection so he can sit in the pocket and take the deep shots. So La'el Collins, to me, would be a terrific signing if he's released by the Cowboys. Shoot, I wouldn't even mind trading for him. Obviously, that that cap hit would be a lot, but I wouldn't mind trading for Lyle Collins if need be. I think he's a great offensive tackle. He's really good at the run blocking. He's gotten better at pass protecting, so there's that, but I think he's a solid tackle still. At the number 5, I'm going with Stephon Gilmore, cornerback from the Panthers. To me, he's not that same corner that we saw in New England where he won Defensive Player of the Year. He's taken a little step back. He's kind of regressed a little bit, but I would love if the Broncos signed him to play opposite of Patrick Surtain because we need corners. Let's be realistic. We haven't re-signed Bryce Callahan yet. We need another corner. Like I said, I wouldn't mind Desmond King to play that slot, but I think we need another outside corner. Darby's solid. If we stick with Darby as our number 2 corner, I wouldn't mind that. But if you're able to sign a Stephon Gilmore, I think that would be a very, very solid option for the Broncos here. At number 4, I'm going with Akeem Hicks, defensive tackle from the Bears. Hicks is on the older side, but he was still very productive in Chicago last year. And the Broncos need a run stopper in the middle of that defensive line. I like Mike Purcell. He is getting up there in age, and I just think it might be time to cut him, release him, because I don't think anyone's really trading for Mike Purcell, but I think we need to bring in Akeem Hicks here to help the run defense, which has struggled a little bit these past few seasons. And also he provides some pressure or rush in the quarterback, but mostly he's going to be used for just plugging up the holes, being that body, and then making the run stop. So that's what I think he'll be used for, and if the Broncos could potentially sign him, I think it would be worth it. At number 3, I have Von Miller returning to the Broncos. I know, shocker, he's not number 1 because he's been posting all this stuff on Instagram and Twitter about wanting to return to the Broncos. But there's also been reports that he wants to return back to LA, go to the Rams. There's been reports that he wants to go to the Broncos. The Cowboys potentially could even be play for Von Miller. But the Broncos need to address their edge position. Would love if we could see a reunion between Von Miller, trading him away, getting those picks, and then bringing him back. That'd be insane. So I think Von Miller would be a great acquisition. We need an edge rusher. We can't wait until the draft to address that. That cannot happen. We need an edge rusher. Next, I'm going with Chandler Jones. There have been a lot. Number 2 of the top 11. There have been 2 names really mentioned for the Broncos. Von Miller, edge, and Chandler Jones. I think Chandler Jones might be the number 1 target for the Broncos. There have been plenty of reports that indicate that. So far, we haven't really seen anything like that. But Chandler Jones, I would love for the Broncos. Like I said with Vaughn, we need that top-end edge rusher. I think Bradley Chubb's a solid, being a complement edge rusher. I don't want him to be the number 1 and only edge rusher where he's double-teamed every play and we don't get a lot of pass rush. I think an edge rusher in this free agent class is vital to this defense success, especially since we don't have Vic Fangio anymore scheming up the defense, who is just a defensive mastermind who got pressure. So I do think we need to address that. I hope we bring back Malik Reed. We'll see. But yeah, I would love Chandler Jones to join the Broncos. And then what is the number 1? If I said this is the number 1, this is the guy that has been number 1 on the Broncos radar, the reports. Well, it's going to be Bobby Wagner. Russell Wilson is currently recruiting Bobby Wagner to the Broncos. He's making his pitch. He wants him to join us in Denver. Those have been the reports anyway. And with the Broncos linebackers currently on the roster being Jonas Griffith, Justin Strnad, and Baron Browning, we need to add a linebacker. Most likely we'll add one in the draft, but also need to add one in free agency. And I would love if Bobby Wagner came to the Broncos. Solid. One of the best linebackers. Maybe it's regressed a little bit since the Legion of Boom days, but still one of the best linebackers. And the Broncos need to address it, linebacker. And if Russell Wilson's recruiting him, why can't he join the Broncos? I think he should. I think he should if possible. If he wants to come here, I think he should get a contract. That's just how I feel. But yeah, these are the top free agents that I think the Broncos should sign. I'm going to go ahead and check to see if the Broncos have made any moves recently. If we have made a signing. We have. We have just made a signing. Let me pull this up and I'll be right back. The Broncos have just signed defensive tackle DJ Jones on a 3-year, $30 million contract with $20 million being guaranteed. So that takes Akeem Hicks off the board. That takes him off the board. We have found our defensive tackle of the future. Or not of the future. I don't know why I keep saying that. But, it's fun to say. We have found our defensive tackle for the next 3 years, stopping the run, just being that run stuffer. DJ Jones. I like the signing. We need a defensive tackle. So he started all 17 games last year with the 49ers. He had 2 sacks, 56 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and he had 3 QB hits. I like what I'm seeing, mostly that run stopper. He can provide some quarterback pressure, but mostly, just good signing. Great pickup by George Payton. We need a defensive tackle. It was a necessity. It's one of the guys on my radar. Didn't make the list, obviously, but saw really good signing. Really good signing, dude. I'm so pumped for DJ Jones. Great. That 49ers defensive line was really solid. We got DJ Jones. Let's go, man. We make a splash. We make a signing tonight. Here's something from Brad Spielberg of PFF, Pro Football Focus. Tackles for loss / no gang among the interior defensive leaders in 2021. Aaron Donald had 17. DJ Jones had 14. This is a great signing by George Payton. In Payton we trust. Let's go. We make a signing. Thanks for watching. Broncos country. Let's have a good night. Let's make some more great signings. I'll see you tomorrow for free agency day number 2.